"He looks like your sons," the nanny told the millionaire. And everything changed in seconds. When the millionaire saw his two twin sons sitting on the dirty street of that miserable suburb, his legs trembled and his heart stopped for a second. But what the nanny said next, pointing at the children with her yellow-gloved hand, completely destroyed him. Those words would change his life forever. But let's go back to the beginning. It all started 3 hours earlier. The afternoon was falling over the city when Sarah Davies walked through the dusty streets of Blacktown, a place where she never imagined she would have to return. She had left there 5 years ago seeking a better life and now worked as a nanny in one of the most luxurious mansions on the North Shore. But that day something had brought her back. She was distracted, thinking about the last few months working for Mr. Marcus Thorne, when she heard a cry. It wasn't just any cry, it was the heartbreaking sound of a frightened, abandoned, desperate child. Sarah stopped dead in her tracks. She knew that cry. She had heard it before, many times in the mansion. She turned her head to the left and saw them. 2 small children, identical, with blonde hair and angelic faces, were sitting against an unfinished concrete wall. They wore bright red t-shirts, now dirty with dust and grime. Their small sports shoes were covered in mud. They were hugging each other, trembling, crying. Sarah felt the air escape her lungs. Liam and Noah, her boss's sons. She ran towards them, her heart beating so hard she felt it would explode in her chest. She knelt in front of the twins, not caring about dirtying her blue nanny uniform. "Liam, Noah, what are you doing here? Where's Miss Jessica?" The children looked at her with their eyes swollen from crying so much. Liam, the one who had difficulty walking well, extended his little arms towards her. Noah, the stronger of the two, was trembling with fear. "Auntie Sarah," Liam whispered with a broken voice. "I'm scared. I'm hungry. Miss Jessica left us here," Noah said, trying to be brave, but with tears streaming down his cheeks. "She said she was going to pick us up, but a lot of time has passed." Sarah felt a burning rage rise in her throat. She took the children in her arms, one on each side, and pressed them against her chest. They smelled of sweat, fear, abandonment. "I'm here. You're safe now. Nothing will happen to you." But her mind was working a mile a minute. How had those children gotten to this suburb? The mansion was more than 20 kilometers away. Why had Jessica brought them here? And why had she abandoned them in the middle of the street? The answers didn't matter at that moment. The only thing that mattered was that those babies were safe. Sarah pulled out her mobile phone with trembling hands and dialed Mr. Marcus's number. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. "Sarah, what's wrong? I thought you had the day off." The man's voice sounded tired, distant. Sarah took a deep breath. "Mr. Marcus, I need you to come right now. It's urgent. It's about Liam and Noah." There was silence on the other end. Then, pure panic. "What? What happened to them? Are they okay? Tell me. Where are you?" "I'm in Blacktown, Maple Street, and Acacia Avenue. The children are with me. They're fine. But sir, you have to come now." "Blacktown? What the hell are my sons doing in Blacktown? I'm on my way now." The call cut off. Sarah hugged the twins tighter. Around her, the neighbors of the suburb began to come out of their houses, curious. A woman with shopping bags stopped at a door. A barefoot child watched from further away. A man leaning against a wall with his arms crossed watched the scene without saying anything. Sarah felt all those eyes on her, but she didn't care. She whispered words of comfort to the children, stroking their blonde heads. "Your dad will be here soon. Everything will be fine." But deep in her heart, Sarah knew that nothing would be fine, because she knew something that Mr. Marcus didn't know yet, something terrible, something she had been seeing for months but hadn't been able to prove. Jessica Knight, the perfect fiancée, the elegant woman everyone admired, was a monster. 20 minutes later, a luxurious black car braked abruptly in the middle of the dirt road. The door flew open, and Marcus Thorne ran out. He was a tall man, in a perfectly pressed beige suit, shining brown leather shoes, slicked back dark hair. For his age, he was the picture of success, but at that moment, his face showed absolute terror. "Liam! Noah!" The children raised their heads at the sound of their father's voice. Liam began to cry louder. Noah extended his arms. Marcus ran towards them and fell to his knees in front of Sarah. He took his sons in his arms, checking them up and down, touching their faces, their arms, looking for injuries. "Are you okay? Did someone hurt you? Who brought you here?" Sarah stood up slowly, wiping the dust from her uniform. Her yellow cleaning gloves, which she had forgotten to take off, shone in the afternoon light. She looked her boss in the eyes. Marcus, we need to talk. There's something you need to know about Miss Jessica. Marcus looked at her, confused, with his children clinging to his neck. Jessica? What does Jessica have to do with this? She's at home. I left an hour ago, and she was resting in the bedroom. Sarah shook her head slowly. No, sir, she's not at home. She's the one who brought the children here. She abandoned them on this street. Marcus's face transformed from confusion to disbelief, from disbelief to denial. That's impossible. Jessica loves my children. She would never. Dad, Noah suddenly yelled, interrupting. Ems, Jessica told us we were going to a park, but she brought us here. She left us alone. I was scared. Liam cried a lot. Marcus looked at his son, then at Liam, who nodded his head amidst sobs. The man felt the world shift beneath his feet. No, it can't be. There has to be an explanation. Sarah took a step forward. Her voice was firm now, though her heart was pounding. Mr. Marcus, I saw her take them this morning. I was arriving for my shift, and I saw her leave with the children in her car. I thought she was taking them to school, but something didn't feel right. I followed her. You followed her? Marcus stood up, still holding the children. Why would you do that? Sarah swallowed. This was the moment. The moment she had to tell the truth, even if it meant losing her job, her stability, everything. Because I've seen things, sir, things you haven't seen, things she does when you're not around. The air grew heavy. The neighbors continued to watch. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and purple. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say anything, another car pulled up behind his. A white, elegant, familiar car. The door opened, and out stepped Jessica Knight. Jessica Knight was beautiful. No one could deny that. She was 35, but looked 28. Long, shiny brown hair, perfect skin, plump red lips, a model's body. That day she wore an elegant outfit, a white silk blouse, fitted black trousers, high heels, designer sunglasses. She looked like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine. When she got out of the car, her expression was one of absolute concern. She took off her sunglasses with a dramatic flourish and ran towards Marcus and the children. Oh my God, Marcus, you found them? Her voice sounded broken, desperate, perfect. She struggled to run on the uneven ground, almost tripping on her heels in the loose dirt. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. My babies, my poor babies. She reached Marcus and extended her arms towards the children. But something happened that made Sarah's heart stop. Liam and Noah shrank back against their father's chest. They didn't extend their arms to her. They didn't smile. Their bodies became stiff, tense. Liam began to tremble. Marcus noticed it, his brow furrowed. Jessica, what happened? Where were you? Jessica ignored the question. She moved closer, trying to touch the children, but Liam hid his face in his father's neck. Jessica pretended not to notice. Her performance was perfect. I was desperate. I was looking for them all over the city. I didn't know where they were. I thought they had been kidnapped. Sarah watched everything from where she stood. Her trained eyes caught every detail, and then she saw it. When Jessica tried to caress Noah's hair and the child recoiled slightly, Jessica's expression changed for a fraction of a second. Her eyes hardened, her jaw clenched. A spark of pure rage crossed her face, but it was so fast that almost no one noticed it. Almost no one. Sarah saw it and knew she was right. Marcus was confused. He looked at Jessica, then at Sarah, then back at Jessica. I don't understand. Sarah says you brought the children here, that you left them alone. Jessica took a step back, putting a hand to her chest. Her face showed perfect shock, offense, pain. What? Me? How can you think that? I love these children as if they were my own. She turned to Sarah with tear-filled eyes. But Sarah saw what was behind those tears. Hatred, threat, warning. Sarah, why would you say something like that? What did I do to you for you to accuse me like this? Sarah remained calm. She had come too far to turn back now. Because it's the truth, miss. Jessica, I saw you this morning leave with the children at 7:30. I followed you to this suburb. I saw you leave them here and drive away in your car. Jessica let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. She turned to Marcus with a wounded expression. See what she's doing? She's inventing crazy stories, Marcus. I was at home all morning. I had a headache. I took a pill and fell asleep. When I woke up, the children weren't there, and I went crazy looking for them. Marcus looked at Sarah. There was doubt in his eyes now. Sarah felt a knot in her stomach. Sir, I know what I saw. She's lying, Jessica interrupted, her voice rising. Don't you see, Marcus? She's jealous. Ever since I came into your life, she's been strange. She always gives me dirty looks. She always questions everything I do with the children." "That's not true," Sarah replied, feeling the injustice burn in her chest. Jessica moved closer to Marcus, taking his arm, making herself appear vulnerable. "My love, think about it. Why would I do something like this? What would I gain by abandoning your children in this horrible place? We're about to get married. I'm going to be their stepmother. I love them. You know how hard I try to be good to them." Marcus looked at his children. They said nothing, just clung to him tightly. "Noah," Marcus said softly, "Son, tell me the truth. Who brought you here?" Noah looked at his father, then at Jessica. The woman smiled at him, but her eyes sent a different message. A message that the 4-year-old understood perfectly. "If you speak, you'll be in big trouble." Noah looked down. "No, I don't remember, Dad." Sarah felt her world crumble. The child was scared, too scared to tell the truth. Jessica smiled triumphantly, though she tried to hide it. "See? The poor child is confused. Probably someone took them and left them here. Maybe it was an attempted kidnapping. We should call the police." "No," Sarah said urgently. "Mr. Marcus, please, you have to believe me. I have no reason to lie." Jessica looked at her with thinly veiled contempt. "Are you sure? Because we all know your family has debts. Maybe you thought you could get money out of this, create drama, make yourself the hero who saved the children." Sarah felt a slap of indignation. "How dare she? I would never." "Enough," Marcus said, his voice tired. He looked at Sarah with eyes that mixed confusion and disappointment. "Sarah, you've been an excellent nanny for 3 years, but these accusations are very serious. I can't just believe that Jessica would do something like this without proof." "I have proof," Sarah lied desperately. "I have photos." Jessica blinked. For a moment, her mask almost fell. "Photos? Show them then?" Sarah realized her mistake too late. She had no photos. She had arrived late, just after the children had already been abandoned. Jessica knew it immediately. Her smile widened. "You have nothing, do you? Why are you lying?" Marcus sighed deeply, kissed his children's heads, and looked at Sarah sadly. "Sarah, I think you need to take a few days off. We'll talk about this later." "Sir, please." "I think it's best you leave now," Marcus said firmly. Jessica approached Sarah with slow steps. She stood in front of her so close that no one else could hear. The neighbors still watched from afar. Marcus was busy calming the children. Jessica lowered her voice until it was just a venomous whisper. "I told you not to interfere, you idiot. I warned you, but you wouldn't listen. Now you'll pay." Sarah looked into her eyes. She saw the emptiness there. Pure evil. "I'm going to find out what you're planning, and when I do, everyone will know who you really are." Jessica smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile. "No one will believe you. Marcus loves me. I am his future. You're just the employee, and soon you won't even be that." Then, loudly for everyone to hear, "Sarah, I know this is difficult for you. I know the changes in the house have affected you, but attacking me like this isn't right. I hope you use these days off to reflect." Sarah clenched her fists. The yellow rubber gloves wrinkled. She looked at Marcus, who avoided her gaze. She looked at the children, who watched her with pleading eyes, as if begging her not to give up. With a broken heart, Sarah turned and began to walk down the dirt road. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she made no sound. Behind her, she heard Jessica's voice, sweet and concerned. "My love, let's take the children home. They've been through a lot. They need a warm bath and food. I'll take care of them, don't worry." And then, lower, almost imperceptible, Sarah heard Liam's voice. "I don't want to go with her, Dad, please." But Marcus didn't understand, didn't want to understand. He was blinded by love, by trust, by the perfectly constructed lies of a woman who was an expert at deceit. Sarah kept walking. The sun had completely set. Now Blacktown was darkening, but in Sarah's mind, a spark of determination was beginning to glow. Jessica had won this battle, but the war had just begun because Sarah knew something that Jessica didn't know, something that could change everything. Sarah knew the secrets of that mansion. She knew every corner, every hiding place, every spot where a camera, a microphone, a piece of evidence could be hidden. And this time, she wouldn't fail. This time, she would prove the truth, even if it cost her everything. 3 days before the incident in Blacktown, the Thorne mansion was a golden cage where things happened that no one from the outside could imagine. It was 7 inches the morning. Marcus Thorne kissed his twin sons' foreheads as he prepared for a business trip to another city. Liam and Noah were having breakfast in the kitchen, eating pancakes with maple syrup. Dad has to go away for 2 days, Marcus told them tenderly. But Jessica will take very good care of you, and Sarah will be here too. Jessica stood next to him, smiling sweetly. She wore an elegant silk robe, her hair perfect, even at that hour. She caressed Noah's head with gentle movements. Don't worry, my love. I'll take care of them, as if they were my own children. Won't I, boys? Liam didn't look up from his plate. Noah nodded weakly. Marcus didn't notice the tension. He was in a hurry, thinking about his important meeting. He picked up his briefcase and left the house after a last hug to the twins. The sound of the car driving away was like the closing of a door to hell. Jessica waited exactly 30 seconds after the car disappeared through the front gate. Then her face completely changed. The sweet smile evaporated. Her eyes became cold, hard as stones. She walked slowly to the breakfast table where the children were still sitting. Stop eating. Her voice was different now. Dry, emotionless. The children froze. Their forks hung in the air. Didn't you hear me? I said stop eating. Liam began to tremble. Noah carefully put his fork on the plate, trying not to make a sound. Jessica took the plates with pancakes and carried them to the sink. She threw them in forcefully. The food slid down the drain. Spoiled brats, you think you can eat whatever you want, right? You think this house is yours? She turned to them. She leaned down until her face was inches from Noah's. Listen to me closely. Your father loves me. Me, not you. You are just a nuisance. A mistake from the past he made with his dead first wife. Noah felt tears filling his eyes, but he didn't dare to cry. He knew that if he cried, it would be worse. Jessica straightened up and walked towards the stairs. Liam, come with me now. Liam looked at his brother in terror. Noah wanted to grab his hand, but Jessica snapped her fingers. I said now. The 4-year. Old climbed down from the chair with difficulty. His right leg dragged slightly as he walked. He had been born with a condition that affected his mobility. Doctors said it would improve with therapy and time. Jessica watched him walk with contempt. Look at him. He can't even walk properly. Pathetic. They went up the stairs. Liam struggled with each step. Jessica didn't help him. She let him struggle, pant, sweat. When they reached the 2nd floor, Jessica took him to the guest bathroom. At the end of the corridor, she pushed him inside. Liam almost fell, but managed to grab the sink. You're staying here until I say you can come out. You're going to learn not to be a burden. But, I have therapy today, Liam whispered with a trembling voice. Jessica laughed. It was a cruel, joyless laugh. No therapy today. I told your father I canceled the appointment because you were sick. You know what? I think I'm going to cancel it forever. You don't need therapy. You need to stop being weak. She closed the door. Liam heard the click of the lock from outside. He was left alone in the dark bathroom. There were no windows, just a small toilet, a sink, and silence. He began to cry softly so she wouldn't hear him. Downstairs, Noah was still sitting in the kitchen. He didn't dare to move. He heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Jessica entered the kitchen with a smile on her face again, but it was a different smile. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed power. Your brother will be fine. He just needs some time to think about his behavior. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat opposite Noah. She watched him like a cat watches a mouse. You're the strong one, aren't you? The one who was born healthy, the one who can walk well, run, play. You must feel very special. Noah said nothing. He kept his gaze fixed on the table. But no matter how strong you are, I'm in charge here. When your father isn't here, this is my house. You are my guests, and guests must behave well, or they leave. She took a sip of coffee, savoring it. Do you know what will happen when I marry your father? I'm going to be your legal mother, and then I'm going to make all the decisions about you. All of them. Your father will be so in love with me that he will sign whatever I want. And you're going to go somewhere far away from here. Noah felt a chill run down his spine. A place where children no one wants go. A place with many other orphaned children, because that's what you're going to be. Orphans again. She stood up and left the cup in the sink. Now, go to your room, and don't come out until I call you. And don't even think about telling your father anything when he gets back, because if you do, I'm going to make your brother suffer more. Understood? Noah nodded quickly, got off the chair, and ran to his room as fast as he could. His bare feet pounded on the stairs. He entered his room, closed the door, and got under the covers. There, in the darkness of his bed, he cried silently. In the bathroom on the 2nd floor, Liam had stopped crying. He was sitting on the cold floor, hugging his knees. He was hungry. He was thirsty. But more than anything, he was scared. Hours passed. The sun moved in the sky. The light coming from under the door changed angle. Liam tried to shout for help, but his voice was too weak. No one heard him. At 3 inches the afternoon, he finally heard footsteps. The door opened. It was Sarah. Her face showed absolute horror when she saw the child on the floor. "Liam, what are you doing here? How long have you been locked in?" She knelt beside him. The child was pale, trembling, dehydrated. "Auntie Sarah," his voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so thirsty." Sarah picked him up in her arms and carried him to the kitchen. She gave him water. She prepared him food. Liam ate and drank desperately. "Who locked you in there?" "It was Miss Jessica." Liam looked at her with terrified eyes. He shook his head quickly. "No, I locked myself in. I was playing." Sarah knew he was lying, but she also knew why he was lying. The child was protecting his brother. He had learned that speaking out had consequences. "Liam, my boy, I need you to trust me. If someone is hurting you, you have to tell me." Liam started crying again. Sarah hugged him tightly. She said, "If I talk, Noah will suffer." She said Dad won't believe us. She said we're a nuisance. Sarah felt a burning rage in her chest, but remained calm in front of the child. "That's not true. Your dad loves you more than anything in the world, and I'm going to protect you, I promise." But as she hugged Liam, Sarah knew she needed more than promises. She needed proof, concrete evidence of what was happening in that house. That night, when everyone was asleep, Sarah began to plan. Later that same night, after Marcus returned from his trip and was again deceived with smiles and lies, after the children pretended to be fine because they were too scared to speak, Jessica entered the twins' room. They slept huddled in the same bed, although they had separate beds. They clung to each other like shipwrecked sailors in a storm. Jessica stood by the bed, looking down at them. The moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating their angelic faces. She tilted her head and whispered, though she knew they couldn't hear her because they were fast asleep. "Enjoy these days, because when I marry your father, you will disappear, and no one will ask about you. No one, except that stupid Nanny. And by then, she'll be out of our lives too." She smiled in the dark. "This house, this money, this man, it's all mine, and you're just obstacles I need to remove." She left the room silently, closing the door without a sound. What Jessica didn't know was that Sarah was awake and had heard every word from the corridor where she had hidden. What Jessica didn't know was that the war had already begun, and Sarah was ready to fight. Sarah didn't sleep that night. After hearing Jessica's venomous words, she stayed awake in her small room next to the kitchen, thinking, planning, fearing. She had known Jessica for 8 months, ever since Marcus had introduced her as his girlfriend. At first, Sarah thought she was perfect, beautiful, educated, attentive, but little by little, small things began not to fit. The way Jessica smiled when Marcus was looking, but her expression would chill when he turned his back. The way the children would tense up when she entered a room. The small bruises on Noah's arms that appeared and disappeared, Liam's nightmares that had started just after Jessica moved into the mansion. Sarah had tried to tell Marcus once 3 months ago. He had listened patiently but then had said, "Sarah, I understand that change is difficult. I know you miss how things used to be, but Jessica is trying to be part of this family. Give her a chance." After that, Sarah had remained silent, but never stopped observing. And now, after finding Liam locked in the bathroom, after hearing Jessica's threats in the dark, Sarah knew that the time for observing was over. It was time to act. The next morning, Sarah woke up at 5 a.m., dressed in her blue nanny uniform, and went down to the kitchen. She prepared breakfast as always. Fresh orange juice, scrambled eggs, toast, fruit. At 7, Marcus came downstairs, already dressed in his gray suit. He looked tired. He had been working late on an important project. "Good morning, Sarah. Are the children awake yet?" "Not yet, sir, but everything is ready for when they come down." Marcus nodded and poured himself a cup of coffee. Sarah took a deep breath. She had to try again. "Mr. Marcus, I need to talk to you about something important." He looked up from his cup. "What's wrong?" "It's about Liam. Yesterday I found him locked in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. He had been there for hours. He was dehydrated and scared." Marcus frowned. "Locked? How?" "Someone locked the door from the outside. He couldn't get out by himself." "That's strange. Did you ask him how he got there?" "He said he was playing, but sir, I don't think that's true. I think someone locked him in on purpose." Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "Sarah, what exactly are you implying?" Before Sarah could answer, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Jessica was coming down, wrapped in an elegant white robe, her hair perfectly styled. "Good morning, my love." She approached Marcus and kissed him on the lips. Then she looked at Sarah with cold eyes. "Good morning, Sarah." "Good morning, ma'am." Jessica poured herself coffee and sat next to Marcus, taking his hand on the table. "What were you talking about? You looked serious." Marcus hesitated for a moment. "Sarah says she found Liam locked in a bathroom yesterday." Jessica's eyes widened in perfectly feigned surprise. "What, Liam? But I saw him playing in the garden all afternoon." Sarah felt her blood boil. "No, ma'am. I found him at 3 inches the afternoon, locked in the bathroom on the second floor, the one no one uses." Jessica tilted her head, confused. "Sarah, I think you're confused. I was with the children all day. We played, watched television, ate together. Maybe you saw him at another time and you're remembering it wrong." "I'm not remembering it wrong," Sarah insisted, feeling frustration grow. "The child was dehydrated. I gave him water. I gave him food. He told me he had been there since the morning." Marcus looked at Jessica. "Is that true? Liam was alone for hours?" Jessica let out a soft, incredulous laugh. "Of course not, darling. I don't know what's going on with Sarah lately. First, she accuses me of abandoning the children in the suburb. Now it's as if she's trying to create problems between us." "I'm not trying to create problems," Sarah said, her voice involuntarily rising. "I'm trying to protect those children." "Protect them from me?" Jessica put a hand to her chest, offended. "Marcus, I can't go on like this. Every day is a new accusation. I can't live in a house where the nanny sees me as an enemy." Sarah saw what was happening. Jessica was twisting the situation, making herself the victim. "Miss Jessica, enough," Marcus said, raising a hand. He looked at Sarah with a tired expression. "Sarah, I appreciate your concern for the children, but these accusations against Jessica need to stop. If you have real and concrete problems with evidence, then we'll talk, but you can't keep attacking her based on suspicions." Sarah felt tears of frustration filling her eyes. "Sir, the children are scared, don't you see? They tense up when she's around. Liam has almost completely stopped talking. Noah has nightmares every night." Jessica sighed dramatically. "The children are going through an adaptation process. They lost their mother 2 years ago. Now they have a new maternal figure in their lives. It's normal for there to be resistance. Any child psychologist would tell you that." Marcus nodded, convinced. "She's right. The children need time." Sarah felt she was losing, but she had to try something else. "And the bruises? I've seen marks on Noah's arms. Small, like fingers squeezing." Jessica stood up abruptly, her face red with indignation. "That's enough. Now you're accusing me of hitting the children. This is too much, Marcus. Either she goes or I go." Marcus stood up too. "Sarah, I think you need to apologize." "Apologize for trying to protect your children? For accusing my fiancé of abuse without any proof?" The words fell like hammers. Sarah looked at Marcus, then at Jessica. The woman had a small smile of victory on her lips. "I don't have to apologize for telling the truth," Sarah said in a low but firm voice. "Then perhaps you should reconsider if this job is appropriate for you," Marcus replied. Silence filled the kitchen. Sarah felt her world crumbling, but before she could answer, they heard a small voice from the stairs. "Dad." Everyone turned. Liam was standing there in his pajamas, barefoot, trembling. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "Dad, please don't fire Auntie Sarah. She's right. She's just trying to help us." Marcus approached his son, concerned. "Liam, son, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" Liam looked at Jessica. The woman returned his gaze with a silent but clear warning. The child lowered his head. "Nothing, Dad. I just don't want Auntie Sarah to leave." Jessica walked towards Liam with soft steps, knelt in front of him, and gently wiped his tears. But Sarah saw how her fingers squeezed the child's arm tightly, invisible to Marcus. "No one is leaving, my love. Sarah is staying here, right, Sarah?" It was a trap. Sarah knew it. If she said no, she would look like the villain abandoning the children. If she said yes, she was accepting her defeat. Sarah looked at Liam. The child looked at her with pleading eyes. "Yes," she finally said. "I'm staying." Jessica smiled. "Perfect. Then, everything is resolved. Marcus, my love, you should go, or you'll be late for your meeting." Marcus looked at his watch and cursed under his breath. He kissed Liam, then Jessica. "We'll talk about this later," he told Sarah before leaving. When the car drove away, Jessica let go of Liam's arm. The child ran to Sarah, hugging her legs. Jessica looked at both of them with contempt. "This isn't over," she said in a low voice. "If you try something like this again, I'm not just going to fire you. I'm going to destroy your life and your family. Understood?" Sarah looked her directly in the eyes. "I'm going to find out what you're planning, and I'm going to stop you." Jessica laughed. "Try it. No one will believe you. You're just the employee." She went upstairs, leaving Sarah and Liam alone in the kitchen. The child was trembling in Sarah's arms. "Auntie Sarah, I'm scared." "I know, my child, I know. But I promise I'm going to find a way to protect you." As she hugged Liam, Sarah made a decision. If they didn't believe her without proof, then she would get proof. Proof so clear that no one could deny it. That same afternoon, when Jessica went shopping, Sarah went to her room. Inside her underwear drawer, she hid an old mobile phone she had bought years ago. It had a camera, an audio recorder, and enough memory to document everything. The invisible war had begun, and Sarah was willing to risk everything to save those children. Because sometimes justice doesn't come alone. Sometimes someone has to fight for it. Sarah knew she had only one chance. If Jessica discovered her investigating without concrete proof, she would fire her immediately. Worse still, she could hurt the children as revenge. She needed to be smart, careful, invisible. For the next 5 days, Sarah became a shadow. She arrived early, stayed late, and every moment Jessica didn't see her, she was working. The first day, Sarah hid her old mobile phone inside a teddy bear in the playroom. She placed it on a high shelf, with the camera pointing towards the area where Jessica spent time with the children. She activated the recording before leaving to do her chores in another part of the house. That night, when she reviewed the recording, her heart stopped. In the video, Jessica was alone with Noah. The child was playing with his toy cars on the floor. Jessica entered the room, looked around to make sure they were alone, and then her mask fell. "Stop making so much noise. My head hurts because of you." Noah immediately lowered the volume of his game. "Sorry. You know what? I don't want to hear you anymore. Give me those toys." "But Dad gave them to me for my birthday." Jessica violently snatched the cars from the child's hands. "Your dad will give them to me whenever he wants. Everything in this house belongs to me, including you." She moved closer, her face inches from Noah's. "When I marry your father, I'm going to have him send you far away to a boarding school. Or better yet, to a children's home where unwanted children go." Noah began to cry silently. "Dad wouldn't let you do that." Your dad does whatever I tell him. I just have to cry a little, put on a sad face, and he signs anything. It's so easy to manipulate him. It's laughable." Jessica laughed, a cold laugh that made Sarah feel nauseous as she watched the video. "Now go to your room and don't come out until dinner. And if you tell anyone about this conversation, I'm going to make your brother suffer. Understood?" Noah nodded and ran out of the room crying. Sarah saved the video. It was good, but not enough. A good lawyer could argue that Jessica was just disciplining the child. She needed more. She needed something irrefutable. The second day, Sarah followed Jessica when she left the mansion. The woman drove to an upscale cafe in the city center. Sarah parked at a distance and watched her through the window. Jessica met with a man. He was young, attractive, dressed in expensive clothes. They kissed on the lips. It wasn't a friendly kiss. It was the kiss of two lovers. Sarah took out her phone and snapped photos one after another. Jessica, laughing with the man. Jessica holding his hand. Jessica kissing him again in the cafe parking lot. When Jessica returned to the mansion 2 hours later, her face was the picture of innocence. "Where were you, my love?" Marcus asked when he arrived that night. "At the spa, darling. I needed to relax a bit. Planning a wedding is so stressful." She lied with such ease that Sarah felt disgusted. The third day, Sarah found something in Jessica's bathroom bin. Crumpled papers. She carefully took them out and smoothed them. They were legal documents, drafts, Sarah read with growing horror. It was a will, a fake will where Marcus left his entire fortune to Jessica in case of his death. But the most disturbing thing was a handwritten note in the margin. After the wedding, accident on the trip, life insurance, children to state orphanage. Sarah photographed each page with trembling hands. This was a murder plot. Jessica not only wanted the money, she wanted to eliminate Marcus and get rid of the children. The fourth day, Sarah installed an audio recorder inside the master bedroom closet. She knew Jessica talked on the phone there, thinking no one could hear her. That night, the recorder captured pure gold. Jessica was talking to someone. Her voice was relaxed, without the false sweetness she used with Marcus. "Yes, everything is almost ready. The idiot will sign the papers the week after the wedding. I'm going to tell him they're company documents. He won't even read them properly." A pause. Then, "The children are a problem, but I have a plan. There's a place inland, a kind of unregistered orphanage where they don't ask many questions. You pay them well? And they keep quiet. I'm going to say they ran away or something. Another pause. Marcus, please. That man is so in love, it's pathetic. He thinks I'm his second chance at love. He has no idea that I'm just a very good actress. Laughter. The life insurance is $20 million plus. The company, the properties, the investments. We're talking about over $50 million in total. It's worth putting up with those whining brats for a few more months. Sarah stopped the recording. She had enough, more than enough. But she needed one more thing. She needed evidence of direct physical abuse. The fifth day, Sarah left her phone recording in the kitchen, hidden inside the biscuit jar on the high bench top. That afternoon, when Marcus was at a meeting and Sarah was supposedly out buying groceries, Jessica came down with Liam. The child had spilt juice on his shirt. You're so clumsy, so useless. How is it possible that you can't even hold a glass of juice without spilling it? Jessica grabbed Liam's arm tightly. The child screamed in pain. It hurts! You're hurting me! Well, that's how you learn not to be so careless. She pushed him towards a chair. Liam fell awkwardly, hurting his knee. Sit there and don't move. You won't eat anything until night. And if you tell your father anything about this, I'm going to make your brother spend the night locked in the basement. Did you hear me? Liam nodded amidst sobs, hugging his knee. Sarah retrieved the video that night. She watched it 3 times, crying each time, but now she had everything she needed. Videos of verbal and physical abuse, photos of Jessica with her lover, documents showing her criminal plan, audio of her confessing her fraud and murder scheme. It was more than enough to destroy Jessica. It was enough to send her to prison. Sarah made copies of everything. She saved one on her phone, another on a USB stick that she hid in her house, and sent another copy to her brother, Daniel Davies, who was a solicitor. Now she just needed the right moment to present the evidence to Marcus. It had to be perfect. It had to be irrefutable. But fate had other plans. The next day in the morning, Sarah arrived early as always. She entered through the service door and went up to her room to change clothes. When she opened her room door, she froze. Jessica was there, sitting on Sarah's bed, and in her hands, she held Sarah's phone, the one with all the evidence. Hello, Sarah. I think you were looking for this. Sarah's heart stopped. Jessica stood up slowly. Her face showed no surprise or anger. It showed cold triumph. You thought you were so clever. You thought you could investigate me without me noticing. But I'm always one step ahead. She walked towards Sarah. The phone gleamed in her hand. I saw you follow me to the cafe. I saw you hide this phone in different places. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Sarah felt panic rise in her throat. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult me by feigning innocence. I know exactly what's on this phone. Videos, photos, recordings. Jessica smiled. It was a predator's smile. But guess what? There's nothing here anymore. I deleted everything, every file, every copy, every piece of evidence. She threw the phone to the floor. The screen shattered into 1,000 pieces. And now you're going to do exactly what I say, or the consequences will be terrible. Sarah was breathing fast, but then she remembered something. The copies. She had copies. Deleting that phone doesn't change anything, Sarah said, trying to sound brave. I have copies elsewhere. Jessica tilted her head. Are you referring to the USB stick you had hidden under your mattress? I already found it. I already destroyed it. Sarah felt her stomach drop. And the email you sent to your brother? I took care of that too. Turns out your brother has a very easy password to guess. I deleted the email and also deleted all the backup files he had. Sarah staggered. It couldn't be true. How? I have resources you can't even imagine. I have people who do jobs for me. Hackers, private investigators, people who make problems like you disappear. She moved closer to Sarah until their faces were inches apart. Now listen to me carefully. You're going to resign today. You're going to tell Marcus you got another job, that you need to leave immediately, and you're going to disappear from our lives. No, Sarah said, though her voice trembled. I'm not going to leave those children alone with you. Jessica took out her mobile phone, pressed play on a video. On the screen, Sarah saw her mother, her 70-year-old elderly mother who lived alone in a small house on the other side of the city. It would be terrible if something happened to your mum, wouldn't you agree? She lives alone. She has no security. Anything could happen. Sarah felt pure terror. Don't you dare. Oh, I dare. I dare to do much more than you imagine. So you're going to resign today. Now, Sarah looked into Jessica's eyes and saw the emptiness there. She saw someone capable of anything, but she also saw something else. She saw fear. Fear hidden behind all that arrogance. Because if Jessica needed to threaten her to leave, it meant that Sarah was a real threat. "All right," Sarah said in a low voice. "I'll go." Jessica smiled victoriously. She knew Sarah would see reason. But what Jessica didn't know was that Sarah was lying. What Jessica didn't know was that Sarah had one more copy, one she had sent to someone Jessica would never imagine. The war was far from over. In fact, it had just begun. Sarah walked downstairs with trembling legs. Jessica walked behind her, making sure she kept her promise to resign. Marcus was in his study reviewing documents. He looked up when Sarah entered. "Sarah, what's wrong? You look pale." Jessica entered behind her with a sweet smile on her face. "My love, Sarah has something to tell you." Sarah opened her mouth. The words wouldn't come out. If she resigned now, the children would be left alone with that monster. But if she didn't resign, her mother could be in danger. I need. Before she could finish, they heard the doorbell. A long, insistent ring. Marcus frowned. "Are we expecting someone?" Jessica shook her head, confused. The housekeeper opened the door, voices at the entrance, footsteps approaching. A man entered the study. He was young, about 30, dressed in jeans and a casual shirt. He wore glasses and a backpack slung over his shoulder. "Marcus Thorne?" "Yes." "Who are you? How did you get into my house?" "My name is Daniel Davies. I'm Sarah's brother." Sarah felt relief and panic at the same time. Jessica stiffened. Daniel looked at his sister. "Sarah, I got your email last night. The one you sent from the secondary account I didn't know about. The one that said, 'If something happens to me, open this.'" Jessica paled. Sarah felt hope ignite in her chest. I didn't send any email," Sarah said, playing along. She needed Jessica to believe she didn't know about this. "Yes, you did. 3 days ago from an account you created at the public library." Sarah had been smarter than Jessica had thought. While Jessica was destroying her main copies, Sarah had created a final backup that even her brother didn't know about until that moment. Daniel took a laptop from his backpack and opened it on Marcus's desk. "Mr. Thorne, my sister sent me very disturbing evidence about your fiancé. I think you should see it." Jessica lunged towards the laptop, trying to close it. "This is ridiculous. It's a conspiracy. Marcus, don't listen to him." But Daniel was faster. Marcus saw it all in his expression and raised a hand. "Wait, Jessica, let him speak." "No, it's all lies. Sarah is trying to destroy me because she's jealous." Marcus looked at Daniel. "Show me." Daniel pressed play on the first video. It was of Jessica in the playroom with Noah. Marcus saw how his fiancée snatched toys from his son's hands. He saw how she threatened him. He saw how she told him she was going to send him away. His face turned pale. This must be edited. "It can't be real." "It's real, sir," Daniel said. "I have the original files with complete metadata. Any expert can verify that there's no editing." Jessica tried another angle. She started to cry. "My love, I was just stressed that day. I didn't mean it. You know how much I love your children." "Really?" Daniel opened another file. And this was the audio of Jessica talking on the phone about her plan to take Marcus's money. Jessica's voice came out of the speakers, crystal clear. "The idiot will sign the papers the week after the wedding. The children are a problem. There's an unregistered orphanage. The life insurance is $20 million. The color drained from Marcus's face. He stood up slowly. His hands trembled. "What? What is this?" Jessica stopped crying. Her mask was falling. "Marcus, I can explain. Explain this then." Daniel showed the photos of Jessica with the other man, kissing, hugging, laughing together. "Your fiancé has a lover. She meets him twice a week, and according to text messages Sarah managed to intercept, he's involved in the plan to steal your fortune." Marcus looked at the photos as if he were seeing a ghost. His face showed shock, pain, betrayal. "No, it can't be." Daniel pulled out more papers. "And here are the draft documents of a fake will. Notes on how to cause an accident that looks natural. Contacts for facilitators who can make children disappear." The papers fell onto the desk like physical accusations. Marcus took them with trembling hands. He read and read and read. When he looked up at Jessica, there was no longer love in his eyes, only horror. "You were going to kill me." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Jessica took a step back. Her brain worked at full speed, looking for a way out, but there was none. The evidence was irrefutable. "Marcus, we can talk about this." "Talk?" Marcus's voice exploded in the study. "You were going to murder me? You were going to get rid of my children as if they were rubbish?" He got up from his chair with such force that he knocked it to the floor. It was all a lie. Everything. Every "I love you." Every smile. every moment. Jessica saw there was no way out of this with tears or manipulation. So her face completely changed. The sweetness disappeared. What remained was pure coldness. Yes, it was all a lie. Every word, every kiss, every night pretending I cared about you. Her voice was different now. Hard, real. You're pathetic, Marcus. A lonely widower so desperate for love that you didn't see the obvious. Anyone could have manipulated you. I just needed to be pretty, say the right words, pretend I loved your defective brats. Marcus felt as if a knife had been plunged into his chest. How could you? How can you be so empty? Jessica laughed. It was a bitter, cynical, empty laugh. I'm not practical. I was going to be rich, very rich, and all I had to do was put up with a few months of pretending to be the perfect wife and stepmother. She looked at Sarah with hatred. But this stupid employee had to interfere. She had to play the hero. Sarah looked her directly in the eyes. I wasn't playing anything. I just protected two innocent children from a monster. Jessica took a step towards Sarah, threatening. You should be careful. I can still hurt you. No, you can't, Daniel said, stepping between them. Because I've already filed copies of all this evidence with a solicitor. If anything happens to my sister, my mother, or anyone close to us, everything is automatically sent to the police and to the media. Jessica clenched her fists. She was trapped, and she knew it. Marcus took out his mobile phone with trembling hands. I'm calling the police. No! Jessica ran towards him, trying to snatch the phone. Wait, can we fix this? I can give you back the money I took. What money? Marcus pushed her away. Jessica realized her mistake too late. I didn't. Daniel pulled out more papers. Over the last 3 months, Jessica has been transferring money from the company accounts to offshore accounts. Small amounts she thought no one would notice. In total, almost $2 million. Marcus felt his whole world crumbling. $2 million? He slumped into his chair, his head in his hands. Jessica saw that all was lost. Her perfect plan had collapsed. Years of preparation, months of acting, all destroyed by an interfering nanny. She looked at Sarah with pure hatred. This is your fault. It's all your fault. No, Sarah said calmly. This is your fault. You chose to be a monster. I just made sure you didn't get away with it. Marcus dialed the police number. As he spoke to the operator, Jessica tried to run towards the door. Daniel blocked her. You're not going anywhere. Jessica pushed him hard, but Daniel was stronger. He held her by the arm. Let me go. You have no right. I have every right to detain someone who has committed fraud, conspiracy to murder, and child abuse. At that moment, 2 small children appeared at the study door. Liam and Noah had heard the shouting. They looked scared, confused. Dad, Noah whispered. Marcus looked up. He saw his children. He saw the fear in their eyes. He saw the barely visible marks of bruises on Noah's arms. He saw everything he had been blind to for months. He stood up and walked towards them. He knelt in front of his children and hugged them tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Dad was a fool. I didn't protect you. But it will never happen again. Never again. The children clung to him, crying. Jessica looked at them with contempt one last time. You're all so pathetic. But no one paid attention to her. 5 minutes later, police sirens were heard outside the mansion. 2 officers entered and listened to the whole story. They saw the evidence and handcuffed Jessica Knight. As she was led out of the house, she shouted threats, insults, curses, but her words were lost in the wind. Sarah watched everything from the study window. She felt tears of relief running down her cheeks. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. You did it, sis. You saved him. Sarah looked to where Marcus was hugging his children. She watched as Liam and Noah finally smiled. They finally felt safe. Yes, she whispered. We did it. But in her heart, Sarah knew this wasn't over. Jessica would face trial. There would be consequences. There would be justice. And that justice was just beginning. 2 weeks had passed since Jessica's arrest. The Thorne mansion slowly returned to normal. The children smiled more. Marcus had taken time off work to be with them. Sarah was still their nanny, but now she was something more. She was part of the family, but the calm was not going to last. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Marcus's solicitor called with urgent news. Marcus, we have a problem, a big problem. Marcus was in his study reviewing the financial damage Jessica had caused. He felt a knot in his stomach. What happened? Jessica is out on bail. Marcus's world stopped. What? How is that possible? The judge said she was a flight risk. Her family has connections. A lot of money. They paid a $5 million bail. She was released 2 hours ago. Marcus felt pure panic. Where is she now? We don't know. She has to report to the police station every day. But, Marcus, there's something else. What? The evidence, the videos, the recordings, the documents? Someone broke into the prosecution's evidence system last night. They hacked the servers, deleted everything. Marcus stood up abruptly. Deleted everything? How is that possible? Jessica has resources we underestimated. She has people working for her, very capable people. Without the digital evidence, the case becomes much weaker. But we have copies. Sarah has copies. Her brother has copies. There was a silence on the other end of the line. Marcus, you need to talk to Sarah now. Marcus ran out of his study. He found Sarah in the kitchen preparing the children's afternoon tea. Sarah, where are your copies of the evidence against Jessica? Sarah looked up, confused by the urgency in his voice. On my phone, on my laptop, and my brother has another copy. Bring them now, all of them. Sarah felt fear in her chest. She ran to her room and grabbed her phone. She opened the folder where she kept the files empty. No, it can't be. She opened her laptop, searched for the files. They had also disappeared. With trembling hands, she called her brother Daniel. Daniel, I need you to check the copies you have of the evidence. What? Why? What happened? Just do it, please. She heard Daniel typing on his computer. Then, silence. Sarah, they're not there. The files, they're not there. The folder is empty, but that's impossible. I password protected them. No one could have. Sarah felt the world crumbling beneath her feet. She ran downstairs. Marcus waited for her in the hallway. He saw her face and knew the answer before she spoke. All the files are gone. Someone deleted them. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, desperate. How? How could she do this? She said she had people, hackers, people with resources. Without that evidence, the case against her falls apart. The prosecution only has testimonies, and good lawyers can destroy testimonies. Sarah felt tears filling her eyes. No, she can't get away with it. Not after everything she did. But before they could say anything else, Marcus's phone rang. It was an unknown number. He hesitated but answered. Hello. A familiar voice, cold as ice, came from the phone. Hello, Marcus. Did you miss me? Jessica. Marcus put the phone on speaker. Sarah moved closer to listen. How did you get this number? Please. Getting a phone number is the easiest thing in the world when you have the right contacts. What do you want? Jessica laughed. It was a triumphant, sinister laugh. I want you to know that you won a battle, but not the war. You've already realized that all the evidence against me disappeared. You're a criminal. Justice will catch up to you. Justice? There's no justice without evidence. And without evidence, there's no case. My lawyers are already working to have all charges dropped. In a month, I'll be free. Marcus clenched the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. I won't let you near my children ever again. Oh yes, your precious children. You should take better care of them, Marcus. You never know what might happen to them. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts. Bad things happen all the time. Accidents, unfortunate incidents. It would be terrible if something happened to those children, or to that interfering nanny. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Don't you dare touch them, Marcus growled. Oh, I wouldn't do anything personally, but I have friends. Friends who leave no trace. Friends who can make people simply disappear. I'm getting a restraining order. Do it. I don't care. Paper won't stop me. Nothing will stop me. There was a pause. When Jessica spoke again, her voice was pure venom. You played with me, Marcus. You humiliated me. You destroyed my reputation. Did you really think there would be no consequences? You did this to yourself. No, you all did this to me. And now you're all going to pay. All of you. If you do anything, if you touch a single hair on my children or Sarah, I'm going to. You're going to what? Call the police? With what evidence? You have nothing. I made sure of that. Jessica Seagate, as if she were bored. Enjoy these days of peace, Marcus. They won't last long. The call cut off. Marcus and Sarah looked at each other. The terror was palpable in the air. We have to get the children out of here, Sarah said. Where? If she has the resources she says she has, she can find us anywhere. Then let's call the police and get protection. Marcus was already dialing, but when he explained the situation to the detective in charge of the case, the response was devastating. Mr. Thorne, without direct and concrete threats, we cannot assign 4 protection. We don't have the resources. The best I can do is increase patrols in your neighborhood. She threatened my children. She hinted, but she didn't directly threaten. In legal terms, it's not enough. Marcus hung up in frustration. For the next 3 days, the mansion became a fortress. Marcus hired private security, installed new cameras, put alarms on every window and door. But the feeling of being watched never disappeared. Sarah barely slept. Every noise woke her up. Every shadow made her jump. The children felt the tension. Liam had nightmares again. Noah clung to his father all the time. On the 4th day, Sarah went down to the kitchen early. She needed coffee. She needed some normality. When she turned on the light, she screamed. On the kitchen table was a black box with a red ribbon. Sarah approached with trembling hands. There was a note on top. For the children, with love. Jay. Sarah didn't touch the box. She ran upstairs and woke Marcus. There's something in the kitchen. Jessica left it. Marcus called the police immediately. A fire department team arrived to check if it was an explosive threat. After 2 hours of tension, they determined it was safe to open the box. Inside were 2 dolls. Dolls that looked exactly like Liam and Noah, with blonde hair, clothes similar to what the children wore. But each doll had pins stuck in its chest, and around each one's neck was a small rope, like a hangman's noose. The message was clear, chilling, deadly. Sarah felt nauseous. Marcus hugged his children tightly, keeping them away from the box. How did she get in here? The detective who had arrived asked. Do you have security? Do you have alarms? I don't know, Marcus replied, his voice breaking. I don't know. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat by her bedroom window, looking out at the dark garden, and then she saw it. A figure standing on the other side of the gate. A female figure, illuminated by the moonlight. Jessica was there, looking towards the house. Even from a distance, Sarah could see her smile. Jessica raised her hand and ran a finger across her neck, making the universal gesture for, "You're dead." Then she disappeared into the darkness. Sarah ran to Marcus's room and told him what she had seen. They called the police again, but when they arrived, no one was there. The security cameras hadn't captured anything because someone had hacked them and deactivated them for exactly 5 minutes. The 5 minutes Jessica was there. The detective looked at Marcus with tired eyes. Mr. Thorne, I'm going to be honest with you. This woman is dangerous and has resources. Until she does something concrete, something we can prove, our hands are tied. So what am I supposed to do? Wait for her to hurt my children? The detective had no answer. That night, in the darkness of his room, Marcus cried for the first time since his first wife's funeral. He had tried to protect his children. He had tried to do the right thing, but Jessica was more cunning, more connected, more ruthless than he had imagined. And worst of all, the evidence had disappeared. The case was crumbling. His lawyers told him there was a very real possibility that Jessica would walk free. Sarah was in her room, feeling defeated. She had risked everything to save those children, and now it seemed it had all been in vain. She looked at her phone. She looked at the empty folder where the evidence used to be. And then, in the midst of her despair, she remembered something. Something she had forgotten. Something Jessica didn't know. A last copy, a last hope, a glimmer of light in the deepest darkness. But would it be enough? Sarah got out of bed at 3 inches the morning. Her heart was pounding. The memory had come like a flash of lightning. 3 weeks ago, when she had started her investigation, she had done something that even her brother didn't know. Something she had done out of pure paranoia. She had uploaded a copy of all the files to a cloud storage service, but not to her personal account. She had created a completely new account with a fake name from a public library computer and had written the password in a place no one would think to look. Sarah ran to her wardrobe and took out an old Bible her grandmother had given her years ago. She had brought it to the mansion when she got the job, but had never opened it. With trembling hands, she opened the book. There, on the first page, written in pencil so softly it was almost invisible, was the username and password for the account. Sarah took out her phone and accessed the cloud storage website. She typed the username, typed the password, and there were all the files, videos, audios, photos, documents, everything intact. She felt tears of relief running down her cheeks. She ran to Marcus's room and knocked on the door urgently. "Marcus, Mr. Marcus, wake up! I have it! I have the evidence!" The door opened. Marcus was disheveled, with tired eyes, but he fully woke up when he saw the expression on Sarah's face. "What did you say?" "I have a copy. A copy I forgot existed." Jessica didn't find it because she didn't know it existed. Marcus felt hope explode in his chest. "Show me!" Sarah opened her phone and began downloading the files. One by one, they appeared on the screen. Marcus saw them. They were real. They were everything they needed. "Sarah, you saved us again!" But Sarah shook her head. Let's not celebrate yet. Jessica has hacked our devices before. She can do it again. We need to move fast. Marcus nodded. Call your brother now. At 4 inches the morning, Daniel arrived at the mansion with 2 barristers from his firm. He also brought a cybersecurity expert. They worked quickly. They downloaded all the files to multiple devices that had never been connected to the internet. They created physical copies on external hard drives, printed documents. We need to get this to the prosecution now, Daniel said, before Jessica realizes we have the evidence again. But the lead barrister, a 60-year-old man with decades of experience, had another idea. No, if we go to the prosecution now, the case could take months to go to trial, and during that time Jessica will continue to be a threat. We need something more immediate. Like what? Marcus asked. The barrister smiled slightly. We need Jessica to incriminate herself in a way that is impossible to deny in public, with witnesses. Sarah understood immediately. A trap. Exactly. For the next 2 hours, they planned every detail. It was risky, dangerous, but if it worked, it would be the definitive end of Jessica. At 10 inches the morning, Marcus made a call to Jessica's private number. She answered after the 3rd ring. Marcus, what a surprise. Have you given up already? I want to make a deal, Marcus said, keeping his voice neutral. Jessica laughed. A deal? You're not in a position to negotiate. Listen to me. I'm going to give you $3 million in cash, and I'm going to make sure all charges against you are dropped. There was silence on the other end. Jessica was intrigued. And what do you want in return? That you disappear from our lives forever. That you leave the country. That you never come back. Why would you do that? Because I'm tired of living in fear. Because I want my children to be able to sleep in peace. Because the justice system clearly can't stop you. Jessica considered the offer. Marcus could hear her thinking, how do I know it's not a trap? Because I have no evidence against you. You made sure of that yourself. And without evidence, I prefer to pay you to leave than to live the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. It was logical. It was exactly what someone desperate and defeated would say. Jessica smiled on the other end of the phone. All right, I accept your offer. Where? When? Tonight at 9 inches Centennial Park, the area near the fountain. Bring your passport to prove to me that you're leaving. Why in a public place? Because that way we both feel safe. There are cameras, there are people. Neither of us can do anything stupid. Jessica agreed. Too easy, too perfect. She hung up the phone, feeling victorious. $3 million and freedom. Marcus was so predictable, so weak. But what Jessica didn't know was that the call had been recorded, and that Centennial Park was right next to the main police station. That night, at 8:30, the plan was put into action. Daniel and 2 barristers positioned themselves near the fountain, disguised as couples on a romantic date. They wore hidden microphones and tiny cameras in their watches. Sarah was hidden in a nearby cafe with a direct view of the fountain. Her phone was connected live to the prosecution. 3 police detectives were disguised as street vendors and tourists. Marcus arrived exactly at 9. He carried a black briefcase. He sat on a bench near the fountain, waiting. At 9:05, Jessica appeared. She wore elegant clothes, high heels, sunglasses. Even though it was already night, she looked confident, powerful. She sat next to Marcus on the bench. I thought you might not come, Marcus said. And miss out on $3 million? I'm not stupid. Clearly. Marcus placed the briefcase between them. Here's the money. Count it if you want. Jessica opened the briefcase slightly, saw the stacks of banknotes, and smiled. And the charges? Tomorrow morning, my solicitor will file documents requesting that all charges be dropped. Without evidence, the prosecution will have no choice but to agree. Perfect. Jessica closed the briefcase but didn't stand up. She remained seated, looking at Marcus. You know what's funny? What? That you actually thought I ever loved you? That you thought you were special? Marcus maintained a neutral expression, though inside, he felt repulsion. Why did you do it? Just for the money? Why else? I wasn't going to waste my life being poor. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. You were perfect. Rich, lonely, desperate, with 2 children who were easy to manipulate. And the plan to kill me? Jessica shrugged. Nothing personal, just business. Alive. You were worth $20 million in insurance. Dead. You were worth $50 million with all your properties and company. The maths was simple. Every word was being recorded, every confession documented. And the children? Were you really going to get rid of them? Of course. I wasn't going to keep 2 brats who hated me. I had contacts in a trafficking network who would have taken them far away, very far away. where no one would find them. Marcus felt boiling rage, but controlled himself. "You're a monster!" Jessica laughed. It was a bitter, cynical, empty laugh. "I'm a survivor, and you're a fool. A rich fool who's going to pay me to disappear." She stood up, taking the briefcase. "It was a pleasure doing business with you, Marcus. Enjoy your mediocre life with your defective children." She took 2 steps, and then the lights came on. Detectives emerged from all sides. One of them spoke through a megaphone. "Jessica Knight, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, extortion, and human trafficking." Jessica's face transformed from triumph to shock to panic. "What? No, this is a mistake," she ran. But there were officers in all directions. They surrounded her in seconds. "Let me go. I didn't do anything." Marcus stood up, looked Jessica directly in the eyes. "We recorded you, Jessica, every word, every confession. And this time the evidence is in the hands of the prosecution, the police, and 3 different law firms. There's nothing to save you now." Jessica felt her world collapse. "You set a trap for me. You set the trap yourself. I just gave you the rope to hang yourself." The officers handcuffed Jessica. This time the handcuffs weren't temporary. This time there would be no bail. As she was led towards the police car, Jessica shouted threats, curses, promises of revenge. But her words were lost in the night. Sarah came out of the cafe. Marcus saw her and ran to her. They hugged, crying with relief. "It's over," Sarah whispered. "It's finally over. Thanks to you," Marcus said. "None of this would have been possible without you." Daniel approached with the barristers. The confession was perfect. Clear, voluntary, without coercion. It's solid evidence that will stand up in any court. One of the detectives approached Marcus. "Mr. Thorne, I'm going to be honest with you. This evening's confession, added to the evidence you gave us this morning, gives us an absolutely airtight case. Jessica Knight is going to be in prison for a very, very long time." Marcus felt a gigantic weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he could breathe. Justice had finally arrived. 3 days after the arrest in the park, Marcus sat in his study with his lead barrister, reviewing the case documents. The charges against Jessica were extensive and solid. Conspiracy to commit murder, financial fraud, child abuse, extortion, attempted child trafficking. "The prosecutor is confident," the barrister said. "With the recorded confession and all the evidence Sarah collected, this is one of the strongest cases I've seen in years." Marcus nodded. But there was something that bothered him. "When is the preliminary hearing?" "In 2 weeks. There the judge will decide if there's enough evidence to go to trial. But I assure you, Marcus, we're going to win." But that same afternoon, everything changed. Jessica's defense barrister, a man famous for defending impossible cases, filed a surprise motion. He argued that the confession in the park had been obtained through deception and entrapment, which made it inadmissible in court. More worryingly, he presented medical documents alleging that Jessica suffered from a mental disorder that made her say things that were not true when she was under stress. "How is that possible?" Marcus asked when his barrister gave him the news. "It's a desperate tactic. They're trying to sow doubt. If they convince the judge that Jessica wasn't in her right mind when she confessed, they could argue that the confession isn't valid. But what about everything else? The videos, the recordings, those are still valid, yes. But without the direct confession, the case becomes more complicated. Her barristers will argue that everything was taken out of context, that Jessica was just being strict with the children, not abusive." Marcus felt frustration boiling in his chest. "That's ridiculous." "I know, but good barristers can make ridiculous things sound reasonable." That night, Marcus spoke with Sarah about the situation. She was in the garden with the twins, watching them play. For the first time in months, the children laughed freely. "Sarah, I need to talk to you." She saw the concern on his face and felt a knot in her stomach. "What happened?" Marcus explained the defense's motion. He watched Sarah's face transform from peace to anxiety. "Does that mean she could walk free?" "I don't know. My barrister says we have a solid case anyway, but it's not as certain as before." Sarah looked at the children. Liam was building a sandcastle. Noah was pushing a toy car. They were so innocent, so vulnerable. "We can't let that happen. Those children can't live with that fear again." "I know. That's why I need to ask you something. Would you be willing to testify in court, in front of Jessica, telling everything you saw?" Sarah felt fear. The idea of being in the same room as Jessica, of having to look her in the eyes while remembering every moment of abuse, was terrifying. But she looked at Liam and Noah again. "Yes, I will. The following days were of intense preparation. Marcus's barrister coached Sarah on how to testify, how to remain calm, how to answer difficult questions. Jessica's barrister will try to discredit you, he warned. He'll say you're jealous, that you made everything up. He'll attack your character. Let him try. I know the truth. But then another blow came. A week before the hearing, Sarah received an unexpected visit. An elegant woman in her 50s appeared at the mansion. Miss Sarah Davies? Yes. Who are you? My name is Eleanor Knight. I'm Jessica's mother. Sarah felt her blood run cold. She let her in only because Marcus was home and security was alert. They sat in the living room. Eleanor was elegant, cold, calculating. Sarah could see where Jessica had gotten her ability to manipulate. I've come to make you an offer, Miss Davies. I'm not interested. You haven't even heard the offer. Sarah crossed her arms. All right. Speak. Eleanor took an envelope from her purse. Here's a check for $500,000. It's yours if you withdraw your testimony against my daughter. Sarah looked at the envelope as if it were a venomous snake. You're trying to bribe me? I'm offering you an opportunity to change your life. $500,000. You can pay off your family's debts, buy a house. You would never again have to work as a domestic employee. Your daughter is a criminal. She abused innocent children. She planned to murder a good man. Eleanor sighed as if she were dealing with a stubborn child. My daughter made mistakes, yes, but she doesn't deserve to spend decades in prison. She's my only daughter. Wouldn't you do anything to protect someone you love? No. If that person is a monster. Eleanor leaned forward. Think carefully, Sarah. Your testimony isn't essential. They have other evidence. The case will continue with or without you. The only thing you'd achieve by testifying is putting yourself at risk. Jessica has powerful friends who don't forget. It was a barely disguised threat. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you advice. $500,000 and security for your family. Or testify and live always looking over your shoulder. At that moment, Marcus entered the room. He had been listening from the corridor. Miss Knight, I'm going to ask you to leave my house right now. Eleanor stood up calmly. Mr. Thorne, you should also think about what's best for your children. Do you really want to drag them through a public trial? Do you want everyone to know what happened in this house? The media will destroy your privacy. I'd rather that than let your daughter walk free. Eleanor walked towards the door. Before leaving, she turned to Sarah. The offer is still open. You have my number. Think carefully. After she left, Sarah slumped onto the sofa. She really thinks her money can buy everything. That family has bought their way out of trouble for generations, Marcus said. That's why Jessica thought she could get away with it. 2 days later, something else happened that shook the case. A witness appeared, a woman who claimed to have worked in the mansion before Sarah. She claimed that Jessica had always been kind and that Sarah had lied, especially because she was in love with Marcus and jealous of Jessica. It was an obvious lie. The woman had never worked in the mansion, but Jessica's barristers presented her as evidence that Sarah was not trustworthy. Marcus's barrister investigated and discovered that the woman was a distant cousin of Eleanor Knight and had received $50,000 3 days earlier. We can prove she's a fabricated witness, the barrister said, but the damage is already done. Now the jury will hear that there are 2 versions of the story. Sarah felt overwhelmed. Every day brought a new attack, a new dirty tactic. The night before the preliminary hearing, she couldn't sleep. She sat in her room, thinking about everything that had happened. She heard a soft knock on her door. It was Noah, the 4-year-old, was in his pajamas, with his favorite stuffed toy in his arms. Auntie Sarah, are you okay? Sarah invited him in. He sat next to her on the bed. I'm fine, my love. I'm just a little worried about the bad lady. Sarah nodded. Noah looked at her with eyes wise beyond his years. My dad says tomorrow you're going to talk to a judge, that you're going to tell the truth about what the bad lady did to us. Yes, my dear, I'm going to do that. Noah took Sarah's hand. Thank you for saving us, Auntie Sarah. You and Liam are our heroes. Sarah felt tears filling her eyes. She hugged the child tightly. You are my reason to fight, and tomorrow I'm going to fight harder than ever. That night, Sarah finally slept and dreamed of justice. The morning of the hearing arrived cold and gray. Sarah, dressed in her best clothes, a simple but elegant blue suit. She looked in the mirror and took a deep breath. You can do this for Liam, for Noah, for all the children who can't defend themselves. Marcus, Sarah, Daniel, and the legal team arrived at court at 8 inches the morning. Reporters were already outside. The case had become news. Millionaire, almost murdered by fiancé, was the headline in all the newspapers. They entered through a side entrance to avoid the media. In the courtroom, Sarah saw Jessica for the first time since the arrest in the park. Jessica was sitting at the defense table, dressed in a conservative suit, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. She looked vulnerable, fragile. It was another performance. When their eyes met, Jessica smiled. It was a small, barely perceptible smile, but the message was clear. This isn't over. The judge entered. Everyone stood up. Court in session. The state versus Jessica Knight. The final battle was about to begin, and Sarah was ready to give every ounce of truth she had in her heart. The prosecutor for the case was a 5-year-old man named David Miller, known for never losing high-profile cases. He stood up and began his presentation. Your Honor, the state will prove beyond all reasonable doubt that Jessica Knight is guilty of multiple serious felonies. We have evidence in video, audio, documents, and testimonies that show a clear pattern of abuse, manipulation, and criminal conspiracy. The defense barrister, an elegant man named Richard Sterling, rose. Your Honor, the defense will demonstrate that my client is the victim of a conspiracy orchestrated by a jealous employee and a spurned man. All the alleged evidence has been manipulated or taken out of context. The judge, a serious woman in her 60s, nodded. Proceed, Prosecutor Miller. The prosecutor began by presenting the audio recordings. Jessica's voice filled the room. The idiot will sign the papers the week after the wedding. The children are a problem. The life insurance is $20 million. The judge listened carefully. Jessica maintained a neutral expression, but Sarah could see tension in her shoulders. Then came the videos. The first showed Jessica in the playroom with Noah. Your dad does whatever I tell him. I just have to cry a little, put on a sad face, and he signs anything. It's so easy to manipulate him. It's laughable. Marcus, sitting in the gallery, closed his eyes. Hearing those words again still hurt. The second video showed Jessica grabbing Liam's arm tightly, making him scream in pain. You're so clumsy, so useless, several members of the public murmured. The judge struck her gavel. Order in the court. The defense barrister stood up. Objection, Your Honor. These videos were obtained without my client's consent. They are an invasion of privacy. The prosecutor responded immediately. Your Honor, the videos were recorded in a private home by an employee who had legitimate reasons to believe the children were in danger. The law allows recordings in cases of suspected child abuse. The judge considered. Objection denied. The videos are admissible. Sterling sat down, frustrated. Then came the documents, the fake will, the notes about the murder plan, the records of financial transfers. As you can see, Your Honor, the accused stole almost $2 million from Mr. Thorne's accounts over a period of 3 months. Small transfers designed not to be noticed. The judge reviewed the documents carefully. Does the defense have any explanation for these transfers? Sterling stood up. My client had authorization from Mr. Thorne to manage certain accounts. These transfers were for wedding and household expenses. Millions of dollars in wedding expenses? The prosecutor raised an eyebrow. And why did they go to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands? Sterling had no convincing answer. After 2 hours of evidence, the crucial moment arrived. Sarah's testimony. The state calls Sarah Davies to the stand. Sarah stood up. Her legs trembled, but she forced herself to walk with her head held high. She placed her hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. She sat in the witness box. From there, she could see everything. Marcus in the gallery giving her a supportive look, Jessica at the defense table watching her with cold eyes, the judge awaiting her testimony. Prosecutor Miller approached with a reassuring smile. Miss Davies, how long did you work for Mr. Thorne? 3 years. And during that time, you met the accused, Jessica Knight? Yes, I met her when she started dating Mr. Marcus approximately 8 months ago. Can you describe Miss Knight's behavior with the children, Liam and Noah, when Mr. Thorne was present? Sarah took a deep breath. When Mr. Marcus was present, Miss Jessica was sweet and attentive with the children. She hugged them, spoke to them kindly, feigned concern for them. And when Mr. Thorne was not present, she was a completely different person. She was cruel, abusive, terrifying. Sarah proceeded to describe specific incidents. Liam locked in the bathroom, Noah deprived of food, the constant threats, the bruises. Her voice was clear and firm. She didn't hesitate. Every word was true, and it showed. Jessica maintained a neutral expression, but Sarah could see rage burning behind her eyes. After 30 minutes, the prosecutor finished. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Now came the difficult part, the cross-examination. Richard Sterling stood up with a confident smile. He approached the stand. "Miss Davies, is it true that you are in love with Mr. Thorne?" Sarah had expected that question. "No, mister. Marcus is my employer. I respect him, but I am not in love with him. But didn't you feel jealous when he started a relationship with my client?" "I didn't feel jealous. I felt concern for the children. A very convenient concern that appeared just as my client entered Mr. Thorne's life." "Objection," the prosecutor said. "He's arguing, not asking." "Sustained," the judge said. Sterling changed tactics. "Miss Davies, isn't it true that you yourself have been disciplined by Mr. Thorne in the past for being too permissive with the children?" It was a lie, but he was trying to plant doubt. "That's not true." "So, Mr. Thorne has never criticized your work?" "In 3 years, I have never received a single complaint about my work." Sterling pulled out a paper. "I have here a testimony from a former employee who says that you have a volatile temperament and that you often made up stories about other employees." Sarah immediately recognized the lie that Jessica's family had bought. "That woman never worked at the Thorne mansion. If you check the payroll records, you'll see she doesn't exist." The prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, we have already investigated that alleged witness. She is a cousin of the accused's mother and received $50,000 3 days before giving that false testimony." The judge looked at Sterling with disapproval. "Barrister Sterling, I expect you to have real evidence and not fabricated testimonies." Sterling turned red. "Your Honor, I didn't know. Continue with relevant questions or end the cross-examination." Sterling tried several more angles, but Sarah answered each question calmly and clearly. She did not contradict herself once. Her story was consistent because it was the truth. Finally, Sterling gave up. "I have no further questions." Sarah stepped down from the stand. As she passed the defense table, Jessica whispered, barely audible, "This isn't over." Sarah ignored her and returned to her seat. The prosecutor called his next witness, Sarah's brother, Daniel, who explained how he had discovered the hacking of the evidence and how he had helped recover it. Then came a forensic IT expert who confirmed that the recordings and videos had not been manipulated. Afterwards, a child psychologist testified, who had evaluated Liam and Noah. He described clear signs of trauma and psychological abuse consistent with what Sarah had reported. Finally, the moment everyone was waiting for arrived. The prosecutor asked to play Jessica's full confession in the park. "Your Honor, this is the recording of the meeting between the accused and Mr. Thorne 2 weeks ago. It was recorded with his knowledge and consent as part of an operation authorized by the police." He pressed play. Jessica's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear. "You actually thought I ever loved you? Just for the money? Alive, you were worth $20 million in insurance. Dead, you were worth $50 million. The children were going to go to a trafficking network who would have taken them far away, very far away." The silence in the room was absolute. Everyone listened in horror. When the recording ended, the judge looked at Jessica. For the first time, the accused's mask had completely fallen. Her face showed pure rage. The prosecutor turned to the judge. "Your Honor, the confession is clear, voluntary, and detailed. Combined with all the evidence presented today, there is no doubt that Jessica Knight is guilty of all charges." Sterling tried a last desperate argument. "Your Honor, my client was under extreme emotional stress. She was not in her right mind. She suffers from a disorder that—" "Enough, Barrister Sterling." The judge's voice was firm. "I have reviewed the supposed medical reports you presented. They are as false as your previous witness." She turned to Jessica. "Miss Knight, I have heard your confession with my own ears. I have seen you abuse children on video. I have reviewed evidence of financial fraud and conspiracy to commit murder. This is not a case of reasonable doubt. This is guilt beyond all doubt." She struck her gavel. "There is sufficient cause to proceed to trial on all charges. The accused will remain in custody without right to bail. She is at risk of flight and is a danger to the community." Jessica exploded. "This is unfair. You all conspired against me. Marcus, you're going to pay for this. And you, stupid employee, you're going to regret the day you messed with me." Guards moved to control her. "Everyone will pay! Everyone!" They dragged her out of the room as she shouted threats and curses. Sarah slumped into her seat, exhausted. Marcus approached and put a hand on her shoulder. "You did incredibly well." Prosecutor Miller approached them. "The full trial will be in 6 weeks, but after today, I can tell you with confidence, Jessica Knight is going to prison for a very, very long time." For the first time in months, Sarah felt she could breathe completely. The truth had prevailed, justice was on its way, and the children were finally safe. 6 weeks after the preliminary hearing, the day of the full trial arrived. The courtroom was filled to the last seat. Reporters, curious onlookers, family members from both sides. This case had become national news. Marcus arrived early with Sarah and the children. The judge had allowed Liam and Noah to be present for a specific part of the trial, the moment they would give their testimony. The child psychologist had prepared the twins for weeks. He had explained that they would have to talk about difficult things, but that they would be safe, that their dad would be there, that Sarah would be there. Jessica entered the room in handcuffs, dressed in a prison orange uniform. She looked different. Her hair was not perfectly styled. She wore no makeup. The mask of beauty and perfection had crumbled, but her eyes were still the same, cold, calculating, full of hatred. When she saw Marcus, she tried to smile at him. It was a pathetic, desperate smile. Marcus looked away. The trial began with the prosecutor presenting his full case. This time, there was a jury of 12 people who would decide Jessica's fate. They needed to be convinced beyond all reasonable doubt. The first 3 days were for presenting evidence. Videos, audios, documents. The jury saw it all, with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to rage. On the 4th day, the crucial moment arrived. The children's testimony. The judge had ordered the room to be cleared of everyone except the barristers, the jury, and essential personnel. She didn't want the twins to feel overwhelmed. The state calls Noah Thorne to the stand. Marcus took Noah's hand. The 4-year-old walked to the stand with small, trembling steps. He had been given a cushion on the chair so he could reach the microphone. Prosecutor Miller knelt in front of Noah to be at his level. He spoke in a soft, kind voice. "Hello, Noah. Do you know why you're here today?" Noah nodded his blonde head. "To tell the truth." "Exactly. And do you know who that lady is?" He pointed towards Jessica. Noah looked at her. His small body stiffened. He nodded. "It's Miss Jessica, Dad's girlfriend. How did Miss Jessica treat you when your dad wasn't around?" Noah looked down. His little hands squeezed the edge of the stand. She was mean." "Can you tell me how she was mean?" Tears began to roll down Noah's cheeks. "She took our food. She said we were annoying. She said Dad didn't really love us." His voice was so small that the jury had to lean forward to hear him. "Did she ever hurt you physically?" Noah raised his small arm. Although the bruises had already healed, the memory was fresh. "She squeezed me here very hard, until I cried." Several jury members wiped their eyes. A woman on the jury put a hand to her mouth. "And your brother Liam? How did she treat him?" "Worse, because Liam can't walk very well. She said he was useless. She locked him in dark places. Once she locked him in the bathroom all day without water." The prosecutor let silence fill the room, letting the jury process the words of an innocent child. "Did you tell your dad about this?" Noah shook his head. "She said if we talked, she would hurt Liam more. She said she was going to send us away, where no one would find us." "Were you scared of her?" "Very scared. Every night I had nightmares. I dreamed she took us to a bad place and we never saw Dad again." Marcus, sitting in the gallery, cried silently. Hearing his son describe that terror was unbearable. The prosecutor turned to the judge. "I have no further questions, Your Honor." Defense barrister Sterling approached for the cross-examination, but even he seemed uncomfortable. Cross-examining a 4-year-old child was not easy. "Noah, did your dad tell you what to say today?" Noah looked at him, confused. "Dad told me to tell the truth, but did you practice what you were going to say?" "The doctor helped me not to be scared, but no one told me what to say. They just told me to tell what happened. There was no way to break the child's testimony. It was simple, direct, and devastatingly honest." Sterling quickly gave up. "I have no further questions." Noah stepped down from the stand and ran to his father. Marcus hugged him tightly. "You did very well, champ. I'm so proud of you." Then it was Liam's turn. The child walked to the stand, his leg dragging slightly. Every step was a reminder of his vulnerability, of why Jessica had attacked him with more cruelty. The prosecutor was equally gentle with Liam. "Liam, can you tell the jury what Miss Jessica did to you?" Liam spoke in a soft but clear voice. "She locked me in dark places. She told me I was ugly because I couldn't walk properly. She told me Dad would get tired of me and send me to a place for children no one wants. How did that make you feel?" "Sad. Very sad. I thought Dad really didn't love me. I thought I was a burden." Marcus felt his heart break. His son had carried that guilt, that pain, in silence. Who helped you? Who saved you? Liam's eyes lit up. Auntie Sarah. She found me when I was locked in. She gave me water. She gave me food. She told me Dad did love me. She told me she would protect us. He looked towards where Sarah was sitting. Auntie Sarah is my hero. Sarah felt tears running down her face. That moment, those words, made all the pain, all the fear, all the risk worth it. When Liam finished his testimony, the entire jury was visibly affected. 3 women cried openly. The men clenched their jaws with contained rage. The prosecutor turned to Marcus. The state calls Marcus Thorne to the stand. Marcus stood up. It was time for him to confront Jessica directly. He sat in the witness box and swore to tell the truth. He looked at the jury, then at Jessica. The prosecutor began with basic questions about his relationship with Jessica, how they met, how she gained his trust, how he had planned to marry her. Mr. Thorne, when you discovered the truth about Miss Knight, what did you feel? Marcus took a deep breath. I felt betrayal. I felt rage. But more than anything, I felt guilt. Guilt because my need for love, my loneliness, after losing my first wife, blinded me. I didn't see what was happening in front of my eyes. I didn't protect my children when they needed me most. His voice broke. I trusted the wrong woman, and my children paid the price. He looked directly at Jessica. But I won't make that mistake again, and I won't stop until there is justice. The prosecutor nodded. I have no further questions. Sterling stood up for the cross-examination. Mr. Thorne, isn't it true that you yourself gave my client full access to your accounts? I gave her access because I trusted her, a trust she betrayed by stealing $2 million. But you gave her access voluntarily? Under false pretenses. She manipulated me. Sterling tried several angles, trying to make Marcus seem responsible or negligent, but nothing worked. Marcus answered each question calmly and honestly. Finally, the moment everyone was waiting for arrived. The prosecutor stood up. Your Honor, I would like the accused to take the stand. The judge looked at Sterling. Is the defense presenting the accused as a witness? Sterling hesitated. Presenting Jessica was risky, but not presenting her would make it seem like she was hiding something. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Jessica Knight. Jessica walked to the stand. Her handcuffs had been removed, but she still wore the prison uniform. She sat down and swore to tell the truth. Sterling began with prepared questions, trying to make Jessica appear a victim. Miss Knight, can you explain your version of events to the jury? Jessica had been coached. She put on a convincing expression of sadness. I loved Marcus. I loved those children. Yes, I made mistakes. I was too strict at times, but I never meant to hurt them. Everything was misunderstood. And the recordings where you talk about plans to take Mr. Thorne's money, I was angry. We were fighting. I said things I didn't mean, exaggerated things. And the confession in the park? I felt cornered. I was scared. I said what I thought they wanted to hear, so they would leave me alone. These were obvious lies, but Sterling presented them as best he could. Then it was Prosecutor Miller's turn. He approached Jessica with a cold smile. Miss Knight, you say you loved the children. Yes. Then why? In this video, he played the clip of Jessica saying the children were brats, that no one wanted. Do you say things like this? Jessica opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no answer. And, if you loved Mr. Thorne so much, why were you cheating on him with another man? He showed the photos of Jessica kissing her lover. Jessica paled. That was a mistake. A moment of weakness. A moment? They are dated. You met with him twice a week for 5 months. The prosecutor cornered her with question after question, each revealing another lie, another contradiction. Finally, he asked the definitive question. Miss Knight, did you plan to murder Marcus Thorne? Silence. Remember, you are under oath. Jessica looked around. She saw the jury looking at her with disgust. She saw Marcus looking at her with disappointment. She saw Sarah looking at her with determination. And something in her broke. The mask fell completely. You know what? Yes. I plan to kill him. I plan to take all his money. I plan to get rid of those annoying children. Sterling jumped to his feet. Your Honor, my client is not in her right mind. She needs— Shut up, Jessica screamed at her own barrister. I'm sick of pretending. I'm sick of acting. She turned to the jury. Yes, I am everything they say. Manipulative, calculating, remorseless. And you know what? I'd do it again if I could. She looked at Marcus with pure hatred. You're an idiot, Marcus. A lonely, pathetic idiot. You deserved everything I did to you. "Order in the court," the judge shouted, banging her gavel. But Jessica didn't stop. "And those children are weak, pathetic, especially the cripple. The world would be better without..." "Enough." The judge struck her gavel with such force that it resonated throughout the room. "Guards, remove the accused." As Jessica was led away, she continued to shout insults, threats, revealing the true darkness of her soul. The silence that followed was absolute. The jury looked at each other with expressions of shock. Prosecutor Miller turned to the judge. "The accused has just confessed to all charges in front of this jury. I have nothing further to add." The trial had ended. The truth had finally come to light in the most dramatic and definitive way possible. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. It was the shortest time Prosecutor Miller had seen in his career for a case of this magnitude. But with Jessica's explosive confession on the stand, there wasn't much to discuss. When they returned to the courtroom, the jury foreman, a 50-year-old man with a serious face, stood up. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor." "What is the verdict on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder?" "Guilty." "On the charge of financial fraud?" "Guilty." "On the charge of aggravated child abuse?" "Guilty." Charge after charge, the answer was the same. Guilty, guilty, guilty. In total, 16 charges, all with a guilty verdict. Jessica, who had been brought back into the room, listened to each verdict without emotion. She was beyond shock, beyond tears. She was simply empty. Marcus squeezed Sarah's hand. The children were at home with Daniel, protected from this final moment. The judge struck her gavel one last time. "The jury has spoken. Jessica Knight has been found guilty of all charges. Sentencing will take place in 2 weeks." But Prosecutor Miller stood up. "Your Honor, given the gravity of the crimes and the behavior of the accused during the trial, the state requests that sentence be passed immediately. The accused has proven to be a continuing danger." The judge considered. "Barrister Sterling, do you object?" Sterling looked defeated, tired. "No, Your Honor. My client is clearly not going to aid in her own defense." "Very well. We will proceed with immediate sentencing." The judge picked up her notes and looked directly at Jessica. "Miss Knight, in my 30 years as a judge, I have seen many disturbing cases, but your case stands out for the pure, premeditated malice of your actions." Jessica did not respond. She stared blankly. "Not only did you conspire to murder a man who trusted you, not only did you steal his money, not only did you abuse vulnerable and innocent children, you also demonstrated in this court that you have no remorse whatsoever, that you have no conscience, that you are a danger to society." The judge continued. "You have heard the testimonies of 2 young children describing the terror they lived every day. I have seen the tears of a father who blames himself for not protecting his children. I have heard your own confession that you plan to sell those children to traffickers. For the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, the sentence is 25 years in prison. For the charge of aggravated financial fraud, an additional 15 years. For multiple charges of child abuse, another 20 years. For attempted child trafficking, 30 years. The sentences kept accumulating. The judge was not being merciful. The sentences will run consecutively, not concurrently. The total is 95 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 40 years. A murmur went through the courtroom. 95 years. Jessica was 35. She would get out of prison, if she got out, as an old woman over 75. Furthermore, the accused must pay full restitution of the $2 million stolen, plus interest and damages. All her properties and bank accounts will be confiscated to pay this debt. The judge struck her gavel one last time. "This court is adjourned. Guards, remove the condemned." As the guards approached Jessica, she finally reacted. She turned to Marcus. "This is your fault. It's all your fault. If you had been a better man, I wouldn't have had to." "That's enough," said one of the guards, taking her arm. Jessica struggled. "Let me go." "You can't do this. I have rights. My family has money, influence." But it no longer mattered. Her family had abandoned her after her outburst in court. Her mother, Eleanor, had given a press conference publicly distancing herself from her daughter. Money and influence could no longer save her. They dragged her out of the room as she screamed and cursed. When the doors closed behind her, silence filled the room. Marcus slumped into his seat. He put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. Sarah sat next to him and hugged him. He cried on her shoulder. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of liberation, of justice finally served. "It's over," Sarah whispered. It's finally over. Prosecutor Miller approached them. Mr. Thorne, Miss Davies, I want to congratulate you. Your bravery made this possible. Without your testimony, without the evidence you gathered, Jessica could have walked free. And what happens now? Marcus asked. Now, Jessica will be transferred to a federal maximum security prison. She will be isolated from other prisoners for her own safety and will spend the rest of her natural life behind bars. Is there any possibility of appeal? There are always appeals, but with the evidence we have and her confession on the stand, no court is going to reverse this verdict. Daniel approached the group with a smile. The children called. They want to know if Dad is coming home now. Marcus wiped his tears and smiled. Yes, I'm coming home now. For good. That night, the Thorne mansion felt different, lighter, as if a dark weight had been lifted. Marcus prepared dinner with Sarah's help. Nothing elaborate, just simple pasta with tomato sauce. But it was the best meal they had had in months. Liam and Noah ate with appetite, laughing, getting their faces messy with sauce. They were normal children again. After dinner, Marcus took the twins to their room, put them to bed, and sat between them. Children, Dad wants to talk to you about something important. The twins looked at him with their big blue eyes. What is it, Dad? Noah asked. The bad lady, Jessica, is going to be in jail for a very, very long time. So long that you will be grown men when she gets out. She won't be able to hurt you ever again. Liam hugged his father. Are you sure, Dad? Sure, my love. And Dad promises something else. I will never again let anyone hurt you. I will be more attentive. I will listen to you more. And if you are ever scared of anything or anyone, I want you to tell me immediately. Okay? Okay, both children said in unison. Marcus kissed them on their foreheads. I love you more than anything in this world. You are my whole life. We love you, Dad, Noah said. And we love you, Auntie Sarah, too, Liam added. Marcus smiled. I do too. He went downstairs and found Sarah in the kitchen cleaning the dishes. He stood next to her and took a cloth to dry. Sarah, I want to talk to you about something. She tensed slightly. After everything that had happened, she still feared she would be fired. Yes, sir. First, stop calling me sir. After everything we've been through together, I think you can call me Marcus. Sarah smiled. All right, Marcus. Second, I want you to know that you are no longer just my children's nanny. You are part of this family. The children love you. I respect and value you more than I can express. Sarah felt tears filling her eyes. They are my family too. That's why I want to offer you something. Not just a salary increase, although you will definitely have one. I want to make you the manager of the charitable foundation I'm going to create. Foundation? Yes. A foundation to help children in abusive situations, to train caregivers to recognize signs of mistreatment, to provide resources to families who need help. And I want you to run it. Sarah was speechless. I don't have experience running foundations. You have something better. You have heart. You have courage. And you saved my children when no one else did. If anyone can do this, it's you. Sarah cried openly. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes, yes, I accept. Marcus hugged her. It was a hug of gratitude, of respect, of family. 3 months later, the Innocent Voices Foundation opened its doors. Sarah was the director. Daniel was the lead solicitor. They hired psychologists, social workers, and activists. In the first year, they helped over 100 families, rescued dozens of children from abusive situations. They trained thousands of caregivers and teachers. Jessica Knight's story became a case study. Universities used it to teach about psychopathic personalities. Documentaries were made about the case. But for Marcus, Liam, Noah, and Sarah, it was not a crime story. It was their story of survival, of justice, of family. Jessica Knight spent her first years in prison in isolation. She tried to appeal 3 times. All 3 were rejected. Eventually, she was transferred to general population. She didn't last long there. The other prisoners, many of them mothers, did not take kindly to someone who had abused children. Jessica was attacked several times and had to return to permanent isolation. 30 years later, when she was 65, Jessica applied for a pardon from the governor. It was denied. 40 years later, she was finally eligible for parole. It was denied. She died in prison at 82, alone, forgotten by everyone, except as an example of human evil. Meanwhile, Liam and Noah grew up in a home full of love. Liam became a physiotherapist, helping children with motor disabilities. Noah became a children's rights lawyer, both married. Both had children, and both made sure their own children never lived the terror they had experienced. Marcus never remarried. He dedicated his life to his children, his work, and the foundation. Sarah married a good man she met at the foundation. They had 2 daughters, but she never stopped being part of the Thorne family. Every Sunday, the entire extended family gathered at the mansion for dinner together. The grandchildren played in the same garden where Liam and Noah had once played. And when the grandchildren asked about the bad lady from the stories they had heard, Marcus would tell them, "Yes, there was a bad lady once, but there was also a brave woman who saved us. And we learned that evil exists, but good can always overcome it if we are brave enough to fight." Justice had been served, the family had healed, and love had triumphed over evil, finally and forever. 6 months after the trial, life at the Thorne mansion had found its rhythm. It wasn't perfect. There were difficult days, occasional nightmares, moments when the children got scared for no apparent reason. But each day was a little better than the last. It was a Saturday morning when Marcus woke up with the sun streaming through his window. For the first time in over a year, he had slept all night without waking up, without anxiety, without fear. He went downstairs and found Sarah already in the kitchen preparing pancakes. The twins were sitting at the table drawing with crayons. "Good morning," Marcus said with a genuine smile. "Dad!" The children jumped from their chairs and ran to hug him. Marcus picked them both up, one in each arm, and spun them in circles. Their laughter filled the kitchen. "Do you know what day it is today?" Marcus asked. The children shook their little heads. "It's a special day. Today we're going to do something we should have done a long time ago." Sarah turned from the stove, curious. "What are we going to do?" Marcus put the children down and walked to Sarah. He took an envelope from his pocket. "This is for you." Sarah opened the envelope with curious hands. Inside were legal documents. She read them once, twice. Her eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, this is adoption papers." "Well, not exactly adoption, but I'm naming you Liam and Noah's legal guardian. If anything happens to me, they stay with you. You're officially part of their legal family." Sarah covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming freely. "I can't. This is too much. It's not enough. It will never be enough to thank you for everything you did for us. But I want you to know that you are more than an employee. You are more than a friend. You are family." Sarah hugged Marcus tightly. The twins, seeing Auntie Sarah's tears, ran to hug her too. "Why are you crying, Auntie Sarah?" Liam asked. "Because I'm happy, my love. Very, very happy." After breakfast, the whole family got into the car. Marcus drove to a place they hadn't visited in almost 2 years, the cemetery. They walked across the green lawn until they reached a white marble headstone. It read, "Laura Thorne, beloved wife, devoted mother, 1985 to 2023. Marcus knelt in front of his first wife's grave. The twins knelt beside him. Sarah stood behind them, giving them space. "Hello, Laura," Marcus said in a soft voice. "I'm sorry I haven't come in so long. A lot has happened." Liam placed a flower he had picked from the garden on the grave. "Hello, Mummy. We miss you." "We had a tough time, Mummy," Noah added. "But we're better now. Dad protected us, and Auntie Sarah saved us." Marcus continued. "Laura, I need to ask for your forgiveness. After you left, I got lost. I was so lonely that I let someone bad into our lives, someone who hurt our children. You didn't deserve that. They didn't deserve that." His voice broke. "But I met someone extraordinary in the midst of all that pain. Sarah. She saw what I couldn't see. She fought when I was blind. She saved our children when I failed to protect them." He looked back to where Sarah was standing. "She's not a replacement for you, Laura. No one could be. But she's a blessing we didn't know we needed. And I want you to know that our children are well now. They're safe. They're happy. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep them that way." Sarah approached and put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Mrs. Laura," Sarah said softly, "I didn't know you in life, but I know the love you left in these children. I see your kindness in Liam. I see your strength in Noah, and I promise you that I will honor your memory by taking care of them with all my heart." They stayed there for several minutes in silence, each with their own thoughts, their own prayers. When they stood up to leave, Noah took his father's hand. "Dad, do you think Mummy can see us from heaven?" "I'm sure of it, son. Then she knows we're well and that we love her." "Yes, my love, she knows." On the way home, they stopped at a park, the same park where it had all begun, where Sarah had found the twins abandoned on that dirty street in Blacktown. But now, instead of painful memories, they created new ones. Marcus pushed the children on the swings. Sarah bought them ice cream. They played on the grass, laughing until their stomachs hurt. That night, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Sarah sat in the backyard of the mansion. The sky was full of stars. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Of course. Why did you do it? Why did you risk so much for my children? You could have ignored what was happening. You could have resigned and walked away, but you didn't." Sarah looked at the stars before answering. "When I was a child, I experienced something similar. Not as extreme, but I had a stepmother who didn't treat me well, and no one believed me, no one defended me. I felt invisible, helpless." She turned to Marcus. "When I saw what Jessica was doing to Liam and Noah, I saw that little girl I once was, and I decided I wasn't going to let those children feel how I felt. Invisible, unimportant, unheard. They didn't have to go through that. I should have seen. Don't punish yourself anymore, Marcus." Jessica was an expert manipulator. She deceived everyone. The important thing is that when you knew the truth, you acted. You protected your children. You put them first. Marcus nodded. "Thanks to you. Without your bravery, without your determination, they would be." He couldn't finish the sentence. "But they aren't," Sarah said. "They're upstairs sleeping in peace, having sweet dreams. That's what matters." They remained in silence for a moment. "You know what?" Marcus said. "What?" "I think Laura sent you." "What?" "Laura. I think from wherever she is, she saw that we needed help, and she sent you. A guardian angel in a nanny uniform and yellow cleaning gloves." Sarah laughed through tears. "I'm no angel. I'm just a person who did the right thing. That's exactly what an angel would do." 2 months later, the official inauguration day of the Innocent Voices Foundation arrived. They had rented an entire building in the city center, 3 floors dedicated to helping children in abusive situations. The inauguration event was big. Politicians, celebrities, activists, everyone wanted to be associated with the cause after Jessica's case became so famous. But for Marcus and Sarah, the most important thing were the normal families who were there. Mothers who had escaped abusive situations, fathers seeking help to protect their children, children who finally had a safe place to speak. Sarah gave a speech in front of all the attendees. "A year ago, I was sitting in a courtroom testifying against a woman who had caused untold harm. And I remember thinking, how many other children are going through this right now? How many are suffering in silence?" She looked at the audience. "This foundation exists for those children, for those who have no voice, for those who are afraid to speak, for those who think no one will believe them. We want you to know, we believe you, we hear you, and we will fight for you." The audience erupted in applause. After the event, a young woman approached Sarah. She was in her 20s and held a small girl by the hand. "Miss Davies, I need to talk to you." Sarah saw something familiar in the woman's eyes. Fear, desperation, hope. "Tell me, my boyfriend, he's not good with my daughter, not the way he should be. And I'm scared, but I don't know what to do. I don't have money to leave. I don't have family to help me." Sarah took the woman's hands. "You're in the right place, and you just did the bravest thing. You asked for help. Come with me." That night, the woman and her daughter were placed in a safe house. The following week, they had a barrister working on their case. A month later, they had a new apartment, and the woman had a stable job. It was just one family, but it was a start. A year later, the foundation had helped over 500 families. They had rescued 200 children from dangerous situations. They had trained over 1,000 professionals to recognize signs of abuse. Liam and Noah, now 6 years old, visited the foundation regularly. They liked to watch Sarah work. They liked to play with the other children who came to the center. One day Noah asked Sarah, "Auntie Sarah, why do you help all these children?" "Because everyone deserves to be safe. Everyone deserves to be happy, like you and Liam." "And the bad lady? Is she still in jail?" "Yes, my love. And she'll be there for a very, very long time." "Good, so she can't hurt any more children." "Exactly." Liam, who had been listening, added, "When I grow up, I want to help children like you, Auntie Sarah." Sarah hugged him. "You're going to be amazing at whatever you decide to do, my darling." 5 years after the trial, Marcus organized a special dinner. He invited Sarah, Daniel, the entire legal team who had worked on the case, and some of the families the foundation had helped. At the end of the night, he stood up with a glass of wine in his hand. "I want to make a toast. To Sarah, who had the courage to see the truth when we were all blind. To Daniel, who fought for justice. To every person who helped bring a criminal to justice." He raised his glass higher. "But most of all, I want to toast to something more important. To family. Not just blood family, but the family we choose, the family we build with love, loyalty, and sacrifice. He looked at Sarah with eyes full of gratitude. Sarah, you and your brother gave us a second chance, a chance to be happy, to be safe, to believe in human goodness again. And for that, we will be eternally grateful. To family, everyone said in unison, to family. That night, when everyone had left and the children were asleep upstairs, Marcus and Sarah sat in the same courtyard where they had talked so many times. You know what's the funniest thing? Marcus said. What? Jessica thought she could destroy us. She thought she could take everything, our money, our happiness, our family. But in the end, the only thing she destroyed was herself. Evil always destroys itself. Eventually, Sarah said. It just needs time and people willing to fight against it. Marcus nodded. Can I tell you something I've never told you? Of course. You're the bravest person I've ever known, and I'm honored to call you family. Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. The honor is mine, Marcus. The honor is completely mine. Upstairs in their rooms, Liam and Noah slept soundly. No nightmares, no fear, dreaming of superheroes and adventures, and all that children should dream of. In prison, Jessica was awake in her cold cell, bitter, alone, full of hatred, but powerless to harm anyone ever again. And at the Thorn Mansion, under the stars, two people who had fought against the darkness and won sat in peace. Because sometimes justice is not just punishment, it's about healing, it's about protecting the innocent, it's about having the courage to do the right thing, even when it's difficult. And it's about building something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. The story of Jessica Knight was a story of evil and manipulation. But the real story, the one that mattered, was the story of Sarah Davies, a woman who refused to stay silent, a woman who fought for two children who could not fight for themselves, a woman who proved that good can overcome evil if we are willing to fight for it. And